Come on, let's give a great shout to Jesus over this morning. All over this place, come on. Well, good morning. Let me just challenge you to ask you this question. What are you trusting God for today, right now? What are you going to risk this year with your life? Some of you got stale, miserable, down in the mouth, just sensing, oh, there's nothing for me in 2020. No, this is a year packed with the favor of God. I believe that with all of my heart. Packed with the favor of God. And in order to activate the presence and the power of God in your life, you have to step out yourself. Otherwise, God would just zap people randomly. And He doesn't do that. He waits for faith. He waits for you to step out, to risk. For those of you who have lost sight of a dream, or maybe that dream has already been accomplished last year, I doubt it. Dreams take time. But for those of you who've lost sight of a dream, for those of you this morning who your dream has already been accomplished, and you're saying to yourself, oh, good old me, I've already done that now. I'm just going to sit back and have a good old time. Listen, it's time this morning to dream again. To think big, to plan big, to trust God. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is to ask you, every single one of you that is trusting God for something, that should really be everybody. You know, if you're here standing in church right now and you go, I really don't need to have faith because I've got all my life sorted. Do you know that's a really sad and dangerous position to be in with your life this morning? Every single one of us, I encourage you every day, trust God for something. Trust God. Some of you are trusting God for healing. Some of you are trusting God for a financial breakthrough this year. Some of you are trusting God to start a business. Some of you are going through bereavement and grief, and you're trusting God to be just for His grace and every day to strengthen you in the situation that you're in. You know, the greatest times in my life have been the toughest times, whereby I've been calling on God and just asking Him, Lord, I just need to have faith, strong faith to believe, to really trust you in this situation. You know, God has never ever let me or anyone else down, and you may feel He has this morning. I appreciate that. But you know, let me remind you of the words of Jesus before we turn to the Word of God this morning. The words of Jesus, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Come on, that's enough to make us grateful. Is anybody grateful out there this morning? Anybody grateful? I want you to lift your hands if you're trusting God this morning for something small or large. And remember, if you can do it, get on and do it. But that which you cannot do, that's what you trust God. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for every person who's gathered in this service. We thank you for all the children gathered and all our leaders gathered in the next building and having a whale of a time. But right now, as adults, young adults and youth, we are right now coming to you. We have some questions maybe, and we certainly have needs and we have wants and desires. But right now, each of us is trusting you for something different, and we're all, as a church, trusting you for the same thing, to carry out 2020 vision, and also for our nights of hope coming in just a few weeks' time, in which we're going to reach this world with the love of Jesus one more time. We pray great favor, say favor, favor to you right now as an individual, favor to your family, favor on your dreams, favor on your workplace, favor on your bank account. The favor of God right now where you are. Grab a piece of heaven right now with your hand. pull it down to where you are, and you are going to see miracles follow you this week. For we believe it and we pray. Come on, let's give Jesus a great shout. Everybody give a shout of praise this morning. We say hallelujah. You may take your seats. So good to have you in church this morning. And you know, today really gets the year going, doesn't it? I know last week, what a phenomenal Sunday we had last week. But you know, that's already past and gone, and we can live in the blessing of last Sunday, 3 services. But today, it's kind of where the year really starts to get going. How many of you agree? This week, the kids, you've kind of rolled them back to school. Your husband rolled him back to work. Got him from under your feet, or whichever way it is. And this morning, I just want to bring to you a very, very simple message. That's going to be a 2-part series. Make sure you don't miss next week for the remaining points that I want to make. But this morning, I want to bring to you a series, 2 parts, to get you going for 2020. How many of you kind of need a little kick up the backside this morning to get you going? Have you noticed? If you've been driving past the gym and you've seen all those fitness fanatics through the windows, anybody drive past the gym and go, I ought to go in there? Yeah. How many of you had a thought of doing that this year, and then the thought passed? You decided, I think I'm better off just letting the thought go by. In December, you'll notice if you do go to a gym, like myself, of course, occasionally I have to say that it's the thought passed in the last few weeks. But you know, you notice in December, the gym tailors off. It gets really quiet as people go to their parties and eat far too much, and they go, oh, forget the gym. When this week kicks in particular, you notice there's a surge in gym membership. There's a surge in people who haven't been for 6 months coming back, because everybody wants to make a fresh start. So this morning is a fresh start for us all. Welcome if this is your first time here in this building. Welcome to Champions here. It's a family of believers in Jesus and pretty normal, average, down-to-earth people that's growing. And we want you to feel that you've come home when you come here. This is a place that we've tried to create where people can feel at home, never judged, never criticized, but loved, overwhelmingly loved, the amazing love of Jesus Christ. And so the messages that we preach here from the platform every week are messages that you can take on a Sunday and take them into Monday. Let me say this again just to remind you, every message we preach comes from the Bible. Everything I'm talking about today is there. And I am more and more aware, the older I get, that I'm not here to entertain you. That would be pretty difficult for me to do that. I'm not here to try and be in a popularity contest. My responsibility is to preach and teach the Word of God, the Bible. Your response to it is not my business. My responsibility is to preach it. And some people will get it, and some people won't. But it's all in this book today. I know that if I wanted to really get your 2020 juices going, all I would have to do is preach a message with a title, Live Life to the Max. And that would be a great title for today, I thought. Live Life to the Max. And then if I interwoven into that title, John chapter 10, verse 10, that's easy to remember. And many good Christians here, of course, will remember and know what exactly that is all about. And it says this, the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Just to remind you today that it's a lousy day today to serve the devil. It's a great day to serve God. So don't be one of those lousy people. And remember, the devil comes to kill, steal, and to destroy. He wants to rip you off. But Jesus came, John chapter 10, verse 10, to give you life and life in its, and the word there is superabundance. Over and above, overflowing from the life that you have today. So living life to the max is a great title, and John 10:10 would probably have some people standing hootering That was the wrong word. Hooting and hollering is what I meant to say. On the backs of your seats, clapping and cheering and going, yeah, Mark, that would be great. So I'm not going to preach that one. I'm going to preach, don't live life to the max. Stop trying to live life to the max. You see, at first glance when you hear that title, it sounds like pretty contrary to the culture of this church. If you've been here any length of time, more than 2 Sundays, you'll know that we kind of go get it, go for life, live life, go to the fore, dream dreams, risk, get out there. We've already mentioned it. You go, this title doesn't seem to fit with this church. I think I'm going to go home. Then what about if I said to you, it doesn't even seem to fit with the teaching of the Bible? I mean, can you think of a verse in the Bible that says, don't live life to the full? There isn't one. So how come you, clever clogs, are preaching, don't live life to the max? Well, I'm going to explain that and why I believe today is a great day to understand this teaching that is going to help you to blossom and thrive and flourish in 2020. Now, I believe I have a bunch of people here today who want to mature. You don't just want to be flabby. You want to get a bit of muscle as a Christian. You don't just want to be flabby around the place and go, oh, I've got a lot bigger. Well, no, you need to be bigger muscularly in terms of, I want to grow, but I want to be strong. So this message is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the weak in the sense of, oh, I only want things that are going to make me happy and want to sing in the service. No, this is a strong word, but a very simple word. If you grab it with both hands today, I believe with all of my heart, 2020 is going to be shaped very, very differently for you. I'm turning to the book of Corinthians, chapter 15. It's just one verse, verse 46. We're going to take a few verses this morning. Here's the first one, and this is what it says. Paul, writing this letter, said, the spiritual, he says, did not come first, but the natural. And after that, the spiritual. If you are a good Christian, you will have been brought up probably and be thinking right now, oh, hang on a bit, I thought the spiritual came first. No, says Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. He said, I've noticed that actually the natural comes first and then the spiritual. We think in terms of spiritual everything. Everything's spiritual. As Christians, oh, you've got to put the spiritual first. Actually, there's a disagreement here. And he says, no. Listen carefully. The natural came first. What he's trying to tell us is if you have a problem understanding spiritual things, that's because spiritual things are difficult to understand. You're not a freak. You're not on your own. Join the club. So actually, the Bible was written, and when Jesus spoke in the New Testament, he would always speak in parables. A parable is just a really easy earthly story. For instance, when wanting to teach about sowing and reaping, he didn't say, now let me tell you about sowing and reaping. He said, a farmer went out to sow. Everything starts with the natural. You getting it? If you want to understand the laws of the Bible, you have to understand, first of all, and you already do, the law and the dynamics of natural living and natural physical things. When you do that, you understand and begin to understand the laws that help you spiritually. Take, for instance, an apple. An apple a day, what? Keeps the doctor away. I found a phone call to my surgery around the corner. Keeps the doctor away. Can't seem to get a hold of him. It's like, call back. I'm dying. Okay, call back in a couple of weeks. Anybody else? We love the doctors in our church. That's not an attack on them. We love them. They're wonderful people. I'll say a little bit more about them, shall I, right now, just in case they feel a little bit attacked. All right. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. A McDonald's a day keeps the doctor exactly where you want him at your house. Take, for instance, the humble apple. You eat it, but you don't eat the lot. Have you ever seen anybody eat a whole apple? The answer is no, because we all know we've eaten enough, or you should do anyway. Try it. It's not too bad for you. And you'll find when you get down to the core of the apple, it's like as if God has arranged in nature that there's a safety net, a cage around something very valuable on the inside called the seeds or the pips of the apple. They usually are black. Do you know how you can tell whether an apple is ripe? If you're growing any on trees or anything, cut the apple. If the seeds aren't black, it means that the apple's not ripe. If the seeds are black, the apple's ripe. So the next time you go to Sainsbury's, Aldi's, take a knife with you. Just cut them in half. There'll be a few half apples. We'll know that you've been from Champions when tomorrow I go, find them all there. God has arranged a core. That is a protection to stop you ingesting into your digestive system, that when the acid in your stomach, if it were to be in contact with an apple pip or the pips of an apple, it would actually turn into cyanide gas. That's why some of you are very gassy over Christmas. Maybe you ate some apple pips. Smile, everybody. Nudge somebody and say, that was you. All right, you're not in that mood today, I can tell. There's a reason you get down to the core and your body and your eyes and everything go, no, you don't eat the core. You think you're not eating the core, but actually you are being prevented from eating the pips, which actually could kill you because of the cyanide poisoning that's in those pips. Isn't it incredible that a healthy thing used in the wrong manner can actually poison your system? Now listen carefully. Let's say that everybody in the world ate every pip that there was in a fruit. What about a stone? Just imagine swallowing an avocado stone. Just imagine if we ate everything. My step-grandfather refused to eat the inside of a tomato because he said, this is literally, and he said this over every mealtime that we were ever there, Sunday afternoons when we were kids, and he'd say, you never want to eat those pips inside a tomato because you'll have them growing inside of you. That's what he said. He believed that. But just imagine if we did that, there would be no reproduction of apples if everybody ate the seed. So God placed a protective seal around the seed that you don't want to eat, because we know the power is in the seed to be sown, and that's what you're going to get if you keep sowing. That's what God wants you to know today. Don't live life to the max. Don't eat up everything in your life. God puts protection around certain things because you need to sow those things. In the Old Testament, we find in the Levitical law, don't go to sleep when I say those words, chapter 23, verse 22. Here is some laws that they had to abide in the Old Testament. And then it says this: when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of the field, or gather the gleanings, the bits that fall off of your harvest. Leave them for the poor, for the foreigner residing among you. I am the Lord your God. Isn't it interesting when you read that? It seems kind of strange that something like don't cut right to the edges, leave margins. Why would God then switch and go, by the way, I am the Lord your God? Do you know why he ends it with I am the Lord your God? He wants you to know, listen, I'm God, you're not. Do this, be blessed. In the Old Testament, the reason that they never cut right to the edges is it tells you there, because the poor and the needy, the orphans, the widows, they would enter the field legitimately and they would get fed from what is left. If you eat up everything that's in your life, if you spend everything that's in your account, if you use up all of your energy, if you do all of those things, you know what's going to happen? You won't have space and room to be a blessing to somebody else. A couple of nights ago, I cooked a bit of a pie thing with puff pastry and pears and Yeah, in fact, I can quite eat it now, apart from it's all gone. And in my mind, I thought, I'm going to cook this, but it's far too big. So immediately, I portioned 2 portions off and said, we don't need to eat that tomorrow and warm it up in the microwave. Let's just cut 2 portions off this pie, one for the old lady over the road, one for somebody else, and that we can give that away, be a blessing to them. Not trying to look good, not trying to say, hey, listen, look at me. I'm just trying to say, listen, there's a great principle of life. Keep some margins in your life for other people, for being blessings. This series is also an opportunity to understand the motor car a little bit. In front of you is a dial. That dial says mph, miles per hour. It helps if you look at that occasionally. It stops you getting speeding tickets. To the other side of that dial, there's another dial. Some of you who are not into cars very much won't even know what that does. You just watch the needle go up and down like that when you rev it. It says on it RPM, revs per minute. That tells you this engine is turning over this amount of times per minute, 1,000, 2,000, whatever. At the end of there is a red line. If you're a man and a crazy driver, you'll talk in terms of, I was redlining it, meaning I was going crazy. When you're young, it's forgiven, but at 55, you're an idiot. Whatever you are. There's a red line that the manufacturer said, if you drive through the gears, first gear up to the red line, second gear, and you drive to the red line, your engine is not going to last very long. In fact, you will one day, as I found out as a youngster with the first 3 cars and the first motorbike, I have to say, that the engine blows up. The red line is there, set by the manufacturer. Don't live beyond this. Don't drive, don't rev beyond this. In fact, change gear much more often. I remember Pastor Tim Jackson, one of his first cars. Tim is admittedly not, in those days, I think he's okay now, are you, Tim? But in those days, he was driving around in a company van. He would admit that he didn't really know much about driving. I do remember, Tim, you filling the engine with oil because somebody said there's not enough oil in. He thought it was like a petrol tank whereby you had to fill it to the top. For the next 3 weeks, everybody knew where Pastor Tim was driving as there was smoke pouring out the back, and Netherton came under smog for about a month. I remember listening to Tim driving down the road in his new company van, and I said to him, did you realize there's more than one gear? It's a true story. He said, you mean I have to change? I said, yeah. He was driving around everywhere he went in first gear. And he was, you laugh, but that's what you are doing. 2020, right now you are living life, believing, oh, I'm living life in the fast lane. Come on. You weren't designed to live life to the max. There's got to be some margin. There's got to be some space. Take a look at the Bible that you read. If you're not, you should be. If you don't have one, we give them away at the end. You'll find out about that in a moment. Even in this simple Bible that we give away, and a book that you're reading, you'll find every book, there's a space at the side so that the words don't go to the end of the page. It's called the margin. The reason for that is, think about, have you ever tried to imagine how it would look, or how your eyes would be, or your brain would function if all the words went right to the edges? It'd be impossible almost to read. If you have a margin Bible, a special Bible with margins, and it gives you key verses and key notes, also some space. In my Bible, I write in the margin a date. This is the promise God gave to me in 1996, or this is when this verse became real to me, or wow, God did this. I'm writing in my Bible all of the time. And that's why I like a Bible with margin and space. Some of us are living without margin or space. We think, oh, my life is so full. I'll put it for you. Listen carefully. That's not the way to live life. You need space to think, space to write notes, space in your life, space for your kids, space for your spouse, space to get in a chair whereby you say and do nothing apart from think, as long as it's not longer than a couple of days and everybody thinks you've gone crazy. 4 out of 5 people, we are told, in the world living right now are not only completely stressed, but they are distressed when God created you to be blessed. The first pages of the Bible, God says, go forth, multiply, I will bless you, be blessed. First page of Genesis chapter 1. God created you not to be stressed or distressed. We all have it. We all know what it feels like. And you can live like it for a few days and a few weeks. I noticed at Christmas time, I was under quite a lot of pressure privately. I don't mean with my wife or some nasty thing going on behind the scenes. I just meant, the burden, the weight of the church I felt weighing on me. 2020, finance, all the services, the Christmas stuff. I felt it weighing on me. And I noticed that my heart was out of rhythm for day after day after day. I've learned over the years, Mark, when your heart keeps missing a beat, it's time to create some margin, some space. Thank God for Christmas holidays. Thank God that we had the opportunity to go away in the new year for a few days. And I have to say, I've come back and I'm just the same. And I'm fine. Create some space. Sadly, we are told 2,000 Japanese workers in their culture as professionals are committing suicide every year because they say, I cannot work like this anymore. And they top themselves believing it to be a way out. Living life to the max, friends, listen carefully, is a disease of the age. The cure is margins. Have some margins. In Mark chapter 6, for those of you who don't believe I'm talking from the Bible, but I'm talking out the back of my head, it's Mark chapter 6, verse 30. The apostles, that's the followers of Jesus, gathered round Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going, does that sound like your life or your family, coming and going, that they did not even have chance to eat? He said to them, Jesus said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. If ever you needed a verse for 2020, there is a great verse that you could preach to yourself every single day. Come with me, said Jesus, by yourself to a quiet place and get some rest. For those of you who are amongst us who are idle, no good for nothing, busybodies, you'll love that verse. See, I told you I'm not supposed to do anything. That's not what it's saying. It's saying for those of us who have busy lives, people coming and going, no time. Oh, we're going to have a snack. Got to go and get a takeaway. We haven't got time to cook. Oh, I ain't got time for that. Oh, I ain't got time to take the kids to football. Jesus said, oi, get alone a bit more. Create some space in your life. Here are a list of things that I thought about that probably are a sign to you that you don't have any margin in your life. Are you ready? Say, I'm ready. I'm ready. If you go home at night after a long day at work, I appreciate that some of you you have long days, long hours, and you live a high-pressure job. But generally speaking, I'm talking, you come home from work, you flop in the chair. Hopefully your tea's going to be on a tray somewhere. And all you do all night, in and out, is that you sleep. From one sleep to another. And then it gets late at night, you get your pajamas on, and then you go for your proper sleep. But you've already had 4 or 5 naps beforehand. Nudge somebody and say, he's talking about you. In fact, if I am, they're probably asleep right now. Falling asleep at all kinds of time in the day is a sign, not every time, that you have not created enough margin in your life. If you are continually shouting at the kids, the dog, the cat, the wife, the budgerigar, and you are at high decibel level to start with, I've said to Gillian before, if you start at that level with the kids, where are you going to go? And they're all in their 20s and 30s now. Come on, laugh somebody. It's a sign, ladies, gentlemen, parents, you have not created enough margin in your life. If you're always angry, restless, you sit down, then you're up, sit down, then you, for goodness sake, sit down, have a break. It's because you don't know how to have a margin in your life. Simple signs are all over the place as to why our world has lost margin, space, and some kind of boundaries in its life. Instead of 6 days a week shopping, we now have 7 days, 24 hours. I ask myself, before 24-hour, 7-day-a-week shopping, how did we survive? I mean, have you ever woken up at 3 in the morning and go, love, we need some carrots? Oh, I forgot the parsnips. Put your carpet slippers on, off you go. Down to Tesco's. Listen carefully. Isn't it amazing that nobody flinches anymore when you tell stories about people at 2 a.m. in Tesco in their pajamas? And we look, oh yeah, that's normal. That ain't normal. Go to bed. Stay in bed. Get up for a wee, whatever you need to do, but don't go out the house. It's a dangerous place. It's like as if that's normal. Get up in the night. If you ever, sometimes we've been traveling and, we've come back from somewhere else in the country, and we always comment about the McDonald's at what's called the Toys R Us Island, even though Toys R Us is closed down. It's still the Toys R Us Island. Do you see how many people, have you ever driven past at 1 in the morning, when me and Gillian are coming back from the nightclubs of heavy drinking, and we're coming back, and I'm saying, love, look at that over there. Some of you believe that, that's the sad thing. And we drive past McDonald's, the queue, 2 o'clock in the morning. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? I'm hungry. Oh, I'd bust a burger in bed right now. Oh, and fries. I find that very comfortable with those seeded buns. Have you, those, and the seeds come off and then you kind of feel them ruffling your skin in the night like sandpaper. How many of you dared to go shopping on Boxing Day? Raise it. No, okay. Don't raise a hand, stand on your seat. How many of you were tempted? We've waited for weeks for Christmas. Christmas Day comes. Oh, we've got a break, a lie-in. No, we haven't. It's the next sale tomorrow. It's the next sale. We've got to be up at 4. Got to stand in line. And it doesn't matter whether it's rain or shine. Next sale. Got to be there. Weeks. You waited for a holiday. If I said 6 o'clock tomorrow on Boxing Day, there's a church service, you give me every reason why you are having a break and a lie-in. You can't be here. It's not right. I saw you down Maryhill. No, I didn't because I wasn't there. Everybody's so happy. Oh, happy Christmas. Yes, happy Christmas. Why are you here? Oh, the jammers. I've come for the jammers. They're 50% off. Oh, are they? I've got to get some new jammers. Yes. Oh, and the socks. Oh, have you seen the socks? 75%. Stay at home. Stop being so restless. It's like as if the world has gone crazy. You can't help but doing, going, spending, saving. 75% off is actually 25% on. You are not winning. My wife has told me this for 35 years. Wow, 50% off. I said, love, you've spent 50% on. How can you save when you're spending? Anyway, I'll talk about that when I get home. How many couples here, married couples here, have lost the desire for each other? The time, this is where it's going to get very, very quiet, and even the energy for sex with your spouse, because your bedroom at night is lit up like a spaceship. Come on, love, let's cuddle up. Hang on, I'm just doing my Instagram. Lights flashing everywhere, blue lights, red lights. In a minute, we're going to take off. Have you finished? Yes, I've finished. I've finished. Come on then, let's snuggle up. No, hang on a bit. I've just got to put a post on to tell them what I've had for me tea. And then, have you done that? Yes. Oh, no, I've got to do a little bit of shopping online because I've noticed there's a sale at H&M and H&M online. Be delivered by in the morning. Isn't it amazing how you can get a delivery so quickly nowadays? That's another subject. And it's like as if we mind everybody else's business, but as spouses, well, no, not tonight, Josephine. No, it's one of those nights again. No wonder divorce rates are going up. No wonder, because it's like as if there's no space for each other. Jillian, I hope you're listening to this message, love. I really do. Pray about it. If you're overdrawn in the bank, watch what happens. You're overdrawn in the bank. You get overdrawn, you get stressed. You can't make ends meet. So you go to the bank. Hello, can I have an overdraft? Oh, yes, absolutely. How much? 5,000. Then you spend 4,999. You go back to the bank. Hello, I need more. How much? 7,500. You spend 6,000. And off it goes again, and you get more and more. Space. Margin. Don't live life. Don't max out your, whoa, we've got a new credit card. Oh, wow. And then you max it out. Next one, max that one out. It's like as if, wow, it's like a little Monopoly game. It's real money. It's stressing your life. Rein it in this year. Cut the pie up so that you've got enough for your neighbor and your friend, and you've got your tithe of your life in order. And sorting it out. It really annoys me when I hear people say, well, we haven't got time to serve in the church. Well, you got time for everything else. Time to do this, time to go there. If you even tithed on your Instagram account in terms of your time, you could run this church single-handedly. Don't clap, throw money. Where does the idea of not living life to the max come from? It comes from the Bible. It comes from God's book, his manual for life. It comes from the Old Testament. It's called the 10 Suggestions. When I was a child growing up in Sunday school, they used to call it, in the old days, the 10 Commandments. Now it's just like, these are some suggestions that you might well do if you obeyed them. Isn't it strange that in there you've got don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't covet. Are those suggestions? I suggest you don't murder anybody. But if you feel like it, it's all right. I suggest you don't try and keep up with the Joneses. But if you want everything they've got, just lust after, it's all right. Isn't it amazing? We all would agree without doubt that the 10 suggestions, known otherwise as the 10 Commandments, don't kill, don't steal, don't, we'd all go, do you know what? They're still applicable today. Isn't it amazing that one tucked away just nicely there is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now remember, I'm not in a popularity contest. Your response is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to preach this book. And we go, yeah, but that's a suggestion. If that's a suggestion, then so is don't steal. Go to Merry Hill tomorrow. Get ad for shoplifting. And when they say, hey, how did you get into this state? Well, you know, I just felt like it. It was just came over me, so I thought I'll have a go. Isn't it amazing that we believe those, but when it gets to this point, we don't believe it. Exodus chapter 20, verse 9, 6 days you shall labor, do all your work. The seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you not do any work, neither nor your sons or your daughters, nor your male or your female servant, nor your animals, nor your foreign residing in your towns. For the 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that's in them. But rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath. Now be careful, because some of you immediately are going to an old mind of, oh, the Sabbath. The Sabbath, no ball games, no knitting, no TV, no magazines, no nothing, no fun, no laughter, no nothing. This is the Sabbath. Get rid of that right away, because it doesn't mean that. And he made it holy. The word holy literally means separated, different, set apart. Now watch this. God does not need a rest. He neither slumbers nor sleeps. The word in the Hebrew in which this was written literally means God took a breath. He took a breath. 6 days he spent creating creation. And on the seventh, he took a breath. He paused and went, wow, magnificent. And the most magnificent thing he took a breath with was you, the greatest of all his creation. And you took his breath away. To have a Sabbath means to take a breath. It doesn't mean, like my grandmother thought it meant, nothing that's fun or enjoyable. No knitting, no ball games, no nothing. It means that you give yourself a moment, an opportunity to take a breath. Have you ever thought about this? The word holiday comes from the word holy day. It's a season of rest where you catch your breath. In the Bible, numbers are attached to meaning. 7 is the number of God. He created the world in 7 days. We have a 7-day week. 6 is the number of man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is your working week. Whatever number 7 falls on, be it Sunday, be it Tuesday, be it Thursday, is almost irrelevant. This is not Sabbath law preaching. This is Sabbath preaching to sustain you. It's not religious. It's to rejuvenate you, to replenish your life, to give you boundaries, borders, margins. This is what God said needs to happen. Myself and my dad went to Canada a few years ago to the revival that was there. And one of the days we said, come on, let's go to Niagara Falls. We went on a bus on a trip. We looked through the window, and there was this huge field, many acres, and there were these trees like sticks, and no fruit, no nothing. We asked one of the, I think it was the driver or the person leading the tour, and we said, what's going on there? Acres and acres of trees. But there's nothing growing, nothing there. They said, oh, this is year 7. What do you mean year 7? Well, they've learned that if you plant and harvest your crops for 6 years and give the land a year off on the 7th year, come to year 1 again, the nutrients in the soil are so amazing that you get amazing harvest for the next 6 years. That came from Leviticus 25. It says every 6 years, give your land some rest. The principle of 6, the law of man, 7, the law of God, is if you want to be in the image of God in your life, you need to adhere to every 7 days, you take a breath. You take a breath and do something different. Don't go to work. Now, be careful. Remember, there's lots of connotations to this. Don't bang on your boss's door tomorrow. My pastor said. Well, you'll be up my office door on Tuesday morning shouting and screaming at me. It's a pattern for life. It's a pattern to help us. Our lives are so fast-paced that we never take a break. Social media is an epidemic. Learn to put your phone away, especially in the service. The result is, in this modern world with everything that we have, there's not one thing that we don't have nowadays available to us. We are more stressed, we are tired, we are sick and tired. We are frustrated, we are annoyed, we are fragile, we are angry, we are angsty, we are basically unhappy, we're out of control, and we are confused more than ever before. And friends, I believe it is in Mark chapter 2 that we find, as we come to a conclusion, this answer. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the cornfields. As his disciples walked along, they began to pick some ears of corn. The Pharisees said to him, look, why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath? He answered, have you never read, this is Jesus, I love this, what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need. In the days of Abiathar the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, the communion bread, which is lawful for only priests to eat. It sounds like the kids at the end of a communion service. And he also gave some to his companions, and they weren't priests either. Then he said to them, ready? The Sabbath was made for man. Our forefathers turned it around, and they said, no, man is made for the Sabbath. Keep this, do this, don't do that. Don't do your hair, don't put fuel in the car, don't read the paper, don't read a magazine, don't do this, don't have sex, don't have this. Sorry. The Sabbath was made for you. You weren't made to keep the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made to keep you at your best. It's not restrictive. It's freeing. It's replenishing, refreshing, rejuvenating. I run a class, a breakfast and a class for senior pastors in this area, young guys. And I say to them, okay, which one of you had a week day off last week? 8 out of 10 go, nah, too busy in the ministry, busy for God. And they puff out their chests as if like you deserve a medal. No, you're already wearing a badge, and on it says idiot. You are working for God 7 days a week, the God who told you don't work 7 days a week. Well, the people in our church, hey, we all have them. Well, it's busy. It's not to get proud about. God made the Sabbath for you. Our offices are closed at our church here on a Friday when everybody wants us. Why are you closed on a Friday? Because our staff are required to work on a Sunday. So we give them a Sabbath on a Friday. I don't work. The only one full day that I have off is a Friday. On that day, I don't reply to emails, phone calls. You say you don't anyway. I don't take appointments. I tell you what I do on a Friday. I go out for coffee or stay at home for coffee. I rest. I shop. That's not resting. In the summer, I do the gardens, mow the lawns, keep the house shipshape, do some DIY, watch TV, cook a romantic meal on a night, snuggle up with my wife. Oh, so you don't pray or read the Bible? Yeah, I still pray and read the Bible on my Sabbath. Of course I do. I don't have a day off from God. Some of you go, oh, I'm taking a day off from God. Day off from church. No, let me end with this morning. Let me settle this confusion for people. In the book of Hebrews, it says, there is still yet a Sabbath day's rest for the people of God. And you know what that Sabbath rest is? When you cease working to make money. When you cease doing what you are doing. You cease stressing. You cease and you come to church. It's not about the day. We meet on a Sunday because that's the day we meet. If you come on a Friday, it's not open, so you won't get the worship. You say, God, today I'm taking a Sabbath rest from my labors. So God, I'm giving it all over to you. My empty bank account, I just need replenishing today. When you come into this atmosphere, friends, you know what you do? You lay it down. And I hope today when you walk out of here, you don't feel religious. I hope you feel rejuvenated, refreshed, replenished, because God is good. Why don't we stand to our feet? Yeah, come on. We're going to end this morning with a great song. In a few moments, just let that sink in and seal your life. Now, ready as we come into conclusion. Make some adjustments. Create some margin. Sit down with your spouse and say, we are going to be different. Sit down with your accounts. We are going to spend different. Sit down with your brain. We are going to think different. Sit down with yourself. I am going to be different. Busy, busy, busy. Don't be a busy fool, a busy idiot. Be a person with boundaries, margins, and borders. Next week, come back. I'm going to give you half a dozen things in our lives, my life, your life, in which you need to have a margin in order to live this life. Let's lift our hands and worship. Come on.